to the T-roh Show. Transmitting truth one week at a time.
Welcome to the 44th broadcast of the T-roh Show. It's your host, Keith. We got Stu here and a guest.
Good afternoon.
We've got a lot to talk about today. May go over the hour, not for sure yet, but we'll see how all this works out. The last broadcast of the T-roh Show got quite a few hits, and keep in mind that the numbers on the front don't match what's really going on. I get a lot of the real numbers on there. We'll get anywhere from 10 to 12,000 hits per month. So it goes up about 3,000, or about 2,500 every other day, or something of that. Maybe, you know, so 10 to 12,000 is as far as the amount of hits that T-roh Show gets. Is not represented on the front on the numbers. Those numbers are being manipulated. So just letting everybody know, because I know a lot of people freak out when they only see 459 hits or whatever. Well, that video actually got about 3,000-4,000. So don't don't worry about it. The word is getting out. It doesn't matter what the numbers are on YouTube. It matters how many people are actually seeing the information. That's the real the real part of this. Now, we talked about the Masonic Lodge, I believe, last time, as far as the Masons starting their federal company or federal corporation. And obviously, we're going to be talking about it this week, but we also want to show you what's happened. And we're going to give you the way out of this mess that has been hijacked by the Masonic Lodges. At the end of the later end of the program. So it's not all going to be doom and gloom. I know some people kind of freak out over that we're just doing doom and gloom, and we're not doing that. And that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're removing layers of the onion so we can get to the core. And once we get to the core, then you start going back uphill. The light at the end of the tunnel starts to show itself. And that's why you have to be able to face a problem in order to be able to fix it. That's the whole point. So we're going to get to the core of the problem and how all this was set up, how big this really is. And you're going to see some things I think you'll be very interested in learning. So first of all, you might want to go to this video here. It's called Freemasonry Laying the Cornerstone 200th Anniversary of Washington, D.C. And it was done in 9/19/1993. Okay, and I'm going to play a little bit of this. This video, if this video disappears, it has been downloaded and uploaded over here on VidTower. Okay, it was uploaded here. So this video isn't going anywhere. This video is evidence. And if you ever are worried about a video being removed from YouTube, come on over to VidTower, register to open an account, and upload it to VidTower. It's not going anywhere over here. Okay, and if you're interested, just at the as a side note here, you might want to check out Fibonacci 1123 at PMA. This is he offers a international registered agent services. And I will explain a little bit of about this later, why this particular position is extremely advantageous for everybody in their business. Now I'm going to play this right here. What they're doing is the 50 Grand Masters of the Masonic Lodge, and I'm just saying Grand Masters loosely. I'm not I'm not recognizing any of their titles within their organization. It's just a secret society, is all it is. It's a fraternity of a bunch of dudes. But there's 50 grandmasters of the 50 states. Now keep that in mind. And what they're doing is they're doing the 200th anniversary of laying the cornerstone of Washington, D.C. And they go in and they've got this, each one of them have to grab some cement or grout, whatever the hell they want to call it, and they're putting it on top of the cornerstone. And then they got a whole long line of them right here, see? Now, each one of these guys are from the 50 states. They're ahead of each one. And they go in, they get their knife, they go and they pop it in there, and they're popping it on this. It's actually just ridiculous. But look at these guys. Okay, I wanted you to get a really good look at them. This was in 1993, so obviously some of them have changed. Some of them have died. But each and every one of them are ahead of the Grand Lodge of each individual state. U.S. state, by the way. Okay, so they keep going all the way down. Look like real winners, don't they? So it's obvious that why would you have a Grand Lodge in every state? The reason is because the Masonic Order believes that if you don't adhere to the ways of the Masonic Order, you're not going to get eternal life. Sound familiar with other religions? They do that quite often. It's always their religion. If you don't go by their religion, then you will not have eternal life. So what this does is it creates a scenario that all the members that are slowly trying to indoctrinate you into the Masonic Order are literally believing in their own heads that they're trying to give you eternal life. And that's how you spread a cause, doing something good for people. Whether they like it or not, whether they want to be a part of it, they just don't know better, is usually the attitude. You don't know better, you're a heathen, you're the devil, your soul's going to the devil or whatever. So this is what they do.
Well, we've talked about this supremacist thing, and it seems to me that's exactly what we've got here. They know best. They're more in touch with divinity and afterlife, etc., than the commoner. So,
right. So you deserve to be trained, and if you don't adhere to the Masonic Order, we're basically going to torment the crap out of you. We're not going to give you any rights. We're not going to give you any property. We're not going to give you any nationality. We're not going to give you anything. You're basically going to remain a slave until you join the Masonic Order, and your soul has eternal life, and you're one of us, and then now you get all the rights, privileges, immunities, and all that. Secret societies can't do that, folks. You understand what we're saying here? They cannot do this.
Yeah, they're just membership clubs.
Yeah, they have no authority whatsoever. Only the only authority they have is within their own little club. But Stu, if you want to grab up all those signs, you'll see what we're talking about. I'll stop sharing here in a minute. But he goes on and then tells everybody. I mean, this guy here, this guy behind him, he's ahead of this little shindig. He basically tells everybody everything right in the first 10 minutes of what the federal corporation is, who owns it, who runs it, who started it, everybody, everything from the beginning. So a secret society cannot, now we'll get very clear, cannot establish a national government. It doesn't have power of attorney for everybody, which means In order for the Constitution to be properly ratified, you had to go back and get a vote of the people. The representatives of those people did not have the authority to do it on their behalf. They had to go back to the states and get an election put in place. Guaranteed it wouldn't have passed. Would not have passed at all. So what they had to do was they had to genocide those 13 colonies and 13 states, original states, to kill the people off so they couldn't object. And they moved on like nothing happened. These guys have had all the privilege, all the money. They've got control of all the money. They have control of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve does belong to them. The CIA belongs to them. FBI belongs to them. The Federal Corporation belongs to them. All alphabet agencies belongs to these guys. Anything to do with federal. BLM belongs to the Freemasons. So let's go back just for a second. Hopefully my bandwidth will handle this. Okay, when these all these guys started coming in and doing this, okay, here they all are right here. Each and every one of these men here are fully liable for everything that happens within the states because that's where they place themselves. If they want to play master slave, no problem. You're responsible for all the human rights violations, all the murders, everything that happens, you're responsible. See, the government of the United States of America is independent from these jokers. We don't recognize them as any sort of authority. Our Human Rights Tribunal has jurisdiction over them because they're a secret society and a private club. Any nefarious acts being done, Human Rights Tribunal under Article 8 of the UDHR has jurisdiction over it. The future of these men look extremely bleak at the moment. They've been found out, and they have withheld the original states from everybody, put in their own little secret society, put in their own creature of the state, their U.S. state ofs, and have been running everything that way under a secret society and under some kind of BS religion for a very long time. Been doing it for over 240 years. They have withheld a nationality. They're going to say, well, you could go over there and get a U.S. nationality and all that. No, you can't. Not unless you're a Mason. Now we're going to show you why. Go ahead, Stu. All the little hand signals.
Yep, setting up the screen share. Just stand by. Okay, so before I get to the hand signals, I just wanted to show folks that this information is it's available. All you have to do is know that it's available and know what you're searching on. So we've been talking about secret societies, Freemasons in particular. So here's your Freemason reference. But this particular article talks about just a couple 3 years ago, 7 most exclusive societies. And we're not going to get into this in depthly, but I wanted to slowly scroll down. There's your Freemasons right there, your Illuminati, and your Skull and Bones. Okay.
All run by the same people.
Yep. Skull and Bones is perhaps people have heard that George Bush came from there. Former Secretary of State Kerry was a Skull and Bones guy, and they take pride in it, you know. But the Skull and Bones feeds these other organizations. Okay, so I just wanted to offer that up as a little bit of context. As secret societies, you would think that they have things that they withhold from others, and they do. And they have particular ways of communicating. Keith mentioned the hand signals. So we've got a page here that walks you through a few samples of their public gestures. Okay. And again, we're not going to cover a lot of this in depthly. You can read it on your own. It's just to give you some orientation.
Okay, yeah, hold on a second. This guy's the head of Iran, folks.
Yep.
He's a Mason.
Yep.
He's not Muslim. If the Muslims knew he was Mason, they'd destroy him in a heartbeat. But he's a Masonic member. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's a critical piece of information. Virtually all leadership around the globe is tied into the Freemasons because that's how they operate. They place their people in power. They run, organized coups. They run military operations to topple existing power structures, and then they place their Masonic members into leadership roles. And this is this guy here. His name escapes me now, but it's a perfect example. So you've got a pointing gesture that has particular meaning behind it. You've got...
We've seen this how many times?
Yeah. You've got hand folding gestures that convey particular meaning. Excuse me. Okay. And notice the people that are using them. There's your 666.
Yeah, the Pope was using this in Congress.
Mm-hmm. Right. This is a 666, or it's the seeing eye, depending on how you want to view it. Sign of the fist.
Yeah, there's the hand signals and the knuckles.
Yeah, and they have particular handshake, right? You position your fingers particular ways to engage the opposite hand.
Wait till you see this next one, folks.
And then you've got your Pledge of Allegiance symbol. Okay, the heart sign of fidelity.
So when you put your hand over your heart,
they tell you it means, oh yeah, you're pledging to the flag, but what are you really doing?
You're being indoctrinated.
Exactly. You're being indoctrinated into their system, unbeknownst to you. Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. That's an important one. Go back up. See that one where they have Jesus looking up? They did that in the in that movie, A Passion of the Christ, where they show him looking up at the end, after with all bloody and everything. That's why they do this. That was a Masonic movie.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you see a guy looking up or whatever, that's the eyes looking up Masonic code. This is an animation of Jesus on the cross when he often portrayed a religious art in his with his eyes looking up to his Father.
Yeah, I was going to say they offer text here. I'm going to just quickly scroll up after each of these entries. You can get folks, when they research it on their own, they can get a little context as to what.
They can pause the video. Yeah, they can pause it and read it.
Okay. Some of these signs are for distress. Some of these signs are for competency and aggressiveness and all that. This guy here, similar here, he happens to be grabbing his tie, but to the throat is the signal, sign of distress. Here it is, right here, sign of distress.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a sampling of how these guys operate, and I want to take just as kind of a confirmation. Here's a different website altogether, and you'll see that there's images of prominent people in leadership roles that express those hand signals. Devil's horn. So there it is right there.
Yeah, and they're told. I think they're told that it actually means like peace, love, and happiness or something. People were told this. They don't even know what that is.
Yep.
They call it's the deaf hand signal. Go back up
right.
a little bit. Isn't the deaf hand signal for "I love you"?
Yeah, I'm sure that's what she's saying.
Yeah, she looks like one of those that would say that.
Okay, but here it's permeated into in the music industry, pop music industry. Note down here. Politics.
And there he is.
Even more. Okay. And then you've got the hidden hand, which we touched on before.
Right.
A little snag in my Napoleon, right? There's our boy
Pike.
Albert Pike. Mm-hmm. Go back a few t-roh shows and we do a little bit on him. He's a real trooper. And that's the current serving Pope, is it not?
Yep, and that's when he was, before he was.
Yep. And again, this page has some text too to give you some more context. I don't mean to just quickly blow over it, but so there you have it. So there's existing signs, and one more thing that I want to bring up, Keith. I just stumbled upon this.
Okay.
This is a PDF, and it's the court system and Freemasonry. And it's if you can see this, it's a 56-page PDF, and it covers, if I can get that, structure of American Freemasonry, and then the document ties the Freemasonry into the courts. Okay, and in fact, they use hand signals and such in their courtrooms.
Right. There's a lot of people that have covered this, but we're covering it in a different way here. So,
yeah,
we're.
And I want to scroll down to page 11, just in conclusion here. The significance of this.
Yeah, make sure you keep this, by the way. Download it. I'd like to see this.
Yeah. This is why we're talking about this. This is why it's important. Because these secret societies, when they run their courts, okay, they're not running it for justice. Okay, and if you start here at this paragraph, I'll read it out loud for those that don't have a visual capability. If a master mason is suspected of a crime and his case comes before a justice of the peace who is a master mason, or before a grand jury, folks.
Grand convention, grand jury.
Yeah, upon which there is a master mason, or before a court or petit jury in which are master masons. If they keep inviolate of their oath, it is impossible to reach an execution of the law. Okay, you see that right there? It's impossible to reach an execution of the law. Why? Because their Freemason principles are adhered to more than law and justice. And that's why this is important.
That's why when you see a police officer blatantly murdering somebody, he's let off. He's found innocent. Y'all understand that now? That means that every cop is a Mason. Every lawyer is a Mason. Every judge is a Mason.
Right. And they're not making their decision based on right, wrong, justice, injustice. They're making their decision on, is he a club member or not?
Right. So this club has been able to teach and indoctrinate brand new generation after generation that does not know any better, that their little private company that they call, that have been claiming it's a national government, which it's not. Okay, they have been successful at being able to tell everyone that Their little company is a national government, and you need to do what the national government tells you. Do what government tells you, because that's what they tell you to do in the New Testament. And they even say that Jesus said that. Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and blah, 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 blah. Secret societies cannot masquerade as national governments. Secret societies cannot masquerade as anything other than what it is. They cannot hold public offices. It's legally impossible for them to do that. So
right. So, you know, and we're not attacking their ability, the ability of a society or a membership or a group, you know, whatever term you want to use, to exist. What we're addressing here is that they've gone above and beyond what is
their boundaries.
Yeah. And, you know, the right to exist doesn't give you the right to, you know, pollute skies with chemtrails and masquerade as a government and haul people into your membership courts and extract money from them.
It doesn't give them the right basically to do anything other than with their own members. So we're not attacking them at all. We're exposing them.
Correct.
Okay? We're exposing the truth here. And, you know, they put out a lot of this propaganda that is utterly a misrepresentation of really who they are. So if you look at something like this, what is a Mason? Blah, 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 blah. Well, okay, let's go in there and look at this. Here's the little flying saucer right up here. They got their all-seeing eye of Horus. And they say a Mason is a man and a brother whose trust is in God. And we'll tell you what God they're actually misrepresenting. He meets you on the level and acts upon the square truth in his compass, and he is ever plumb. He has a true grip on all that is right. There's that Scottish right. We're all coded. He is loyal to his order, and whatever his degree, he is master of himself. So the 50 Grand Masters of the 50 states have all said that they are masters of themselves. They put everybody in the District of Columbia, made them stateless, which made the Masons masters of you. Violation of Article 4, slavery. Violation of Article 4 of the UDHR, slavery. They took away your right to own property. They took away your right to own go from place to place. They took away your rights to the law. They took away everything. So as long as they're going to play that game, we'll play that game. Let's see how many nefarious acts they've got going here, because there's a lot of them. In the Lodge of Life, he wears unstained the white lamb of innocence, because they're so innocent. From his initiation is an entered apprentice. He travels ever east towards the light of wisdom until he receives the divine password that admits him into the ineffable presence of the eternal supreme Grand Master of the universe. And they use the Paleo-Hebrew name of Yahweh. They're completely misrepresenting Yahweh. Because, see, Yahweh creates nations. These guys don't. They've remained secret. If they're so upright and truthful, why are you a secret society? Why don't you just tell everybody what you're doing? Why you got to sneak it in there through the NFL?
Mm-hmm.
When guys are taking a knee, why you got to sneak it in there to get everybody to stand up and prove who they are and put their hand over their heart and all that crap? Why you got to pull that?
Right.
If you're so upright, you know?
Yeah. And Keith, I'm looking over that PDF that I was sharing before. And yeah, okay, I'll screen share it real quick for the folks. But part of the document is a series of oaths, because we need to remember that the Freemasons in particular, they have degrees, right? Mm-hmm. 8th degree, 33rd degree. We've heard those terms before. And lo and behold, within that PDF, should be showing up at any point now. Here's a series of oaths. 7th degree, here's your oath. 8th degree, here's your oath. So this is how you do it. 7 raps with the gavel. All candidates rise. And look at what it says right here. Never to reveal directly or indirectly the secrets or mysteries of this, the 8th degree of the Scottish Rite, under penalty, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, each degree, here's another one, has their own oaths. And this is why there's not justice in the courts, because they're answering to these oaths. They're not answering to law, order, and justice for all.
They're not even answering to state constitutions.
Right.
Because why? Because they threw them under genocide. They killed the international character of each state. See, folks, you have to understand that the state of Tennessee, that's a country. State of Alabama, state of New York, they're all countries in one union, specific countries. If you don't believe me, why is it that you have intrastate commerce, which is within the state, then you have interstate commerce, which no state has jurisdiction in, which they have deemed to be federal jurisdiction? If that's the case, then you've gone over international lines in order for it to be international, of which now they say the federal has jurisdiction. Those states are still independent countries, regardless. The problem is these little jokers right here are withholding it from you. They're keeping you in a legal box. These guys right here. There's only 50 of these guys. But they have it all set up like Amway, like we were talking before. So it goes down into their police, it goes down into their cities, it goes down into everywhere. And they're all responsible to these guys right here. These guys are the ones that went into Iraq. These guys are the ones that put Trump in. These guys are the ones that hold the Electoral College. These guys are the ones that do all of it, every bit of it, all 50 of these guys. They're the ones that went, they're screwing around with North Korea. They're the ones that set up the UPU. They're the ones that set up the BRICS. They're the ones that have been running the scams on the Federal Reserve. They're the ones that have been foreclosing on people. And they're connected in with the Dutch. The Dutch are helping and using them, or they're all working together. Manhattan Island, jurisdiction of the United States. They boast at this meeting. Look at these guys. They boast at this meeting that they committed genocide against the original states. They do it indirectly. And they call themselves, oh, worshipful master of the state of so-and-so. What in the hell are you guys saying? Oh, worshipful master. Okay, so anything that's happening within the states, these are the guys responsible. If you believe your human rights have been violated, find out who the joker is within the Grand Master of that state. Sue his ass for massive human rights violations. Article 4, slavery. Article 9, arrest, detention, and exile, perpetually. If you've had issues trying to become a state citizen, and they turn around and call you a sovereign citizen and all that, the reason why they're doing that is they're covering this guy. That's why they're doing it. They're covering the responsibilities of this guy because this guy claims you as a slave. And so does this guy and this guy and this guy. They're the ones that are claiming you as slaves.
Under no valid authority other than force.
Absolutely. That's why you don't have a nationality. That's why you've never taken an oath or affirmation to anything. Your own people within your own states. Every one of the sheriffs, Masons. Every one of the council members, Masons. All of them, Masons. They join this particular order. They join the side of the what they call the Freemason. And enslaved you. You pay the taxes, you pay this, you pay that, you get little dribbles back in the form of benefits. From who? From your slave master. These are the guys that own the military-industrial complex. These are the guys that killed JFK. These are the guys who started Vietnam and ran a 56,000-man contract that once 56,000 slaves died, which they all have insurance on you, and they collect on the insurance, the war's over. That's when they pulled out. Same thing with Iraq. It's around 50,000. So when 50,000 of you die, they keep the war going until 50,000 die. Once that happens, they collect on the insurance policies, and they move on. They're called life insurance policies. It's a little corporation in, I can't remember the name of it. It's a corporation in Michigan. Something I studied back in the 90s.
And we've established in previous t-roh shows that it goes back to the, you know, what are commonly referred to as founding fathers. I've got a quick screen share for, since we're on that topic. So this is rapid.net, little alternative presentation of American history. Okay, particularly with, as you can see here, Masonic emphasis. We're not going to, you know, cover a lot of this text, but
no, read the top, because man, the Christians really need to hear this. Remember there was that one woman who does all the records in Congress, and she's saying this forum is not Christian. This forum is not. It's there something complete. She started freaking out. Remember that? She was yelling.
Yeah.
And they finally put her, and she's just crazy. They put her in some freaking white jacket and turned her away and everything. She was trying to tell people what was going on. She just didn't know how to say it. What was going on in Congress? Okay, go ahead. There's much speculation on the religious nature of the United States of America. Remember, that's lowercase t, so that's the federal company. As it was founded, many Christians assert that the United States was founded on a Christian nation, and therefore it is not only our right but our duty to reclaim it for God. But is America a Christian nation in the true sense of the word? Absolutely not. Not even close. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it's pretty good reading. But here's your list, tying it back into some of the prominent names of the revolution and or what are referred to as founding fathers. And look, you know, John Adams, Sam Adams, Ethan Allen, you know, John Hancock, Mason, suspected Mason. You know, it's a pretty long list. Francis Scott Key. Oh, no evidence of Mason connections. Okay, but you know, here's a nice list of folks. Ben Franklin. We know he was a 33rd degree, so he was a Grand Master, way up there. So it goes back. You know, it goes back a long way. It's not a new development. It is the point I'm trying to bring across. You know, they institute things generationally. You know, it's like the grass in your front yard. I've used this analogy before. You look out at it and you don't see that it's growing, but a week later it needs to be cut. 2 weeks later, it's getting out of control. Well, that's how these guys operate. They implement things over generations. They implemented things over decades. They're probably working now, strategy-wise, on stuff for, late in the century. They're probably 50, 60, 70, maybe even 100 years ahead of us, so to speak.
Right. So this whole idea that you need to get it back. Let's go back up to the top there and the first paragraph. Okay. It says there's much speculation on the religious nature, and many Christians assert that the United States was founded as a Christian nation. It was never founded as a Christian nation, folks. You're fighting for something that was never done. That is your deception. That's your deception. We keep trying to tell people this over and over again. It was never yours. It always belonged to someone else. It belonged to the Dutch Freemasons. It belonged to the Scottish Freemasons, the English Freemasons. All these guys have come in, and now they're making your laws. And we keep trying to tell people over and over and over.
Here's a nice sentence right here, in fact. As point of information, the Pilgrims did not found the United States. They founded a small colony that eventually got swallowed up. And there you have it. That's how it works.
Exactly. Okay, so we're going to go into something that a lot of people have opened, now we're going to get into some good news. Okay? So just keep in mind that we're not here to doom and gloom everybody just so for ratings or for subscribers. We always have good news no matter what we do. So I'm going to show you something here. Now, a lot of people have gone to this particular level of study, but they never went far enough. There's a term called usufruct. I know it sounds like a rash, like I just, oh man, I got some usufruct, I need an ointment. But that's not really what it is. It's in Roman-based legal systems, a temporary right to the use and enjoyment of property of another without changing the character of the property. This legal concept developed in the Roman law and found significant application in the determination of the property interest between a slave held under a usufruct, use and enjoyment is what it means, bond, and a temporary master. Any property acquired by a slave as a result of his labor legally belonged to the master. Uh-oh. That's kind of pretty much what the system is right now. You don't really own it. They say you're the owner when there's a liability. When there's no liability, you're not the owner. Just like we said, you're only a citizen of the United States during tax time. After that, you're not. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to reveal the cross that destroys this vampire. And this is a message from the Reign of the Heavens. Reign of the Heavens was a country. Still is today. It was rediscovered in 2012. Now you guys can put all the time and everything together on the significance of it being rediscovered in 2012. However, what we've got here is this system. It's a usufruct system. Which means that if they want to play that game, fine, send them all your electric bills, your phone bills, all that. Y'all want to play that? I don't own it. You're supposed to be the master. You pay the damn bill. You guys are the ones that have monopolized on the what do you call that? The global accounts. You guys are the ones that have monopolized everything, held it to yourselves, claiming to be a remnant and all this other crap that you're not, claiming a lot of things that you're not. And by what you've done is you have ignored freedom. You guys were okay. I'm talking to the Masons now. You guys were given power for 240 years to bring this country into the light of the world. You put together a piece of crap where there's no, it was a BS power of attorney that you didn't have for the rest of the world. And you failed to give it an executive power. And there's many other mistakes in it, which you failed to correct. It was so bad, you had to put 10 amendments the first day you met because it wasn't done correctly. And you had to do a whole multitude of amendments after that. You didn't create a nation, you created a mess. And if you guys are worshiping Yahweh, you have sorely misrepresented him and his intentions, because I can go back to the Old Testament and show exactly where every one of you screwed up. So the reign of the heavens had to be rediscovered in order for the Most High to give your sorry ass a message. So this is it. Non-commercial vehicles. We're going to start with the driver's license because that's where you guys have created your control mechanism for all kinds of things, like home foreclosures, making thousands upon thousands homeless, murdering, having your officers of your little private society murdering people on the street. Now you've made a deal with Islam. The hell's the matter with you people? So you've got no person may operate a motor vehicle which is not a commercial motor vehicle upon a highway in this state unless the person, when they say this state, that means Masonic state, unless the person possesses a valid operator's license issued to the person by the department, which is not revoked, suspended, canceled, or expired. Okay, now, what's missing? What's missing, Master Mason? Come on. What are you missing here? The light of Yahweh is what you're missing. Because you guys are a freaking piece of work. What you're missing, what's missing, folks, is called intangible property. Okay? Intangible property and tangible property are two separate properties. You have the motor vehicle, which is your car, which is tangible. T-A-N-G, tangible property. Then you have the right to the vehicle, motor vehicle, which is intangible property. Both properties have the same existence. Okay? So, an intangible property to something is just as significant as the tangible property itself. So, let's start in one aspect of this. Everyone has the right to the use of the public highways. So we came out with the intangible property right, showed the flaw in it a year and a half ago. Every Mason in every state under the definition of highway removed the last words of all their definitions as a matter of right. And you think we missed that? You think you're so slick that we just took that out? Maybe nobody will know. So the use of the public highways, they took out the last three words as a matter, last five words, as a matter of right. So they could win. So what it is it? You guys cheat. So instead of embracing Yahweh and embracing the teachings of the Most High, you go and, well, we got to win. You slimy little weasels.
Yeah, and perhaps it's even, I mean, that's pretty bad, and I'm not saying there's degrees of bad. Bad is bad, but, and also this is misapplied. I mean,
absolutely.
If they want to have their own rules, those rules can be as rigid as they want, but they need to apply them to themselves, not to others, not to people that don't participate in their gig.
You're enforcing this crap on people that don't have any oaths to it. That's called human trafficking.
Yeah, and we saw the oaths moments ago.
Yeah.
There's oaths.
This is from the Wisconsin government statutes. Okay, this is .gov. No person may operate a motor vehicle. This is coming from the Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Wisconsin. This is not coming from the state legislature, folks.
Why doesn't it say no person with an oath to the Masonic Lodges may operate a motor vehicle?
Thank you.
Why doesn't it say that?
Yeah, why does it say that, you little weasel? Okay? Well, you think you're hiding from somebody? You think Yahweh doesn't see you? And you think you're so slick and everything else? You got an ego problem there, Wisconsin Grandmaster. You got an ego problem. Your ego's lying to you, and you're stupid enough to believe it. So you've got, okay, this is what's supposed to happen, folks. No person may operate a motor vehicle which is not a commercial motor vehicle upon a highway in this state unless the person possesses a valid operator's license issued to the person by the department which is not revoked, suspended, or canceled, or expired. Okay, now you have to write in the qualifications for this condition, which means an individual has to, a man, woman, whoever, has to transfer their intangible property right to the use of the public highways as a matter of right over to the Wisconsin State Department of Motor Vehicles in order for them to come back and license it back to you as a valid contract and trust. That's how it's supposed to be done. Then the prosecutor can turn around and say, you violated your contract here with the Department of Motor Vehicles. Here is my letter of delegation of authority from the Department of Motor Vehicles, and the fact that I have the right to speak on their behalf. Here's my power of attorney, and here's my letter of acceptance and acknowledgement of that power of attorney within this contract. And you violated this here, and you agreed that this was going to be the fine, so therefore you need to pay the fine. If you fight it, then it becomes criminal because you're violating it. So what do you jokers do? You smart, brilliant Masons, you traffic people right into your freaking lodge as a slave. You violate Article 4, you violate Article 15, and you violate Article 9. In order to get what? Your little freaking money back that you guys produce and print? Seriously? That's what you do? How are you so brilliant to do something this stupid? You're misrepresenting Yahweh. That's called taking Yahweh's name in vain. If the UDHR doesn't affect your sorry asses, the freaking taking Yahweh's name in vain should. Wake your butts up. You have caused the biggest mess on the planet. And that's why you got a letter to wake you up. what we've done is we've opened up a couple of motions here for anybody to download. We don't care who you are. Because if they're so upright, they're going to take this correction with open arms. If you're not, you're the weasels I personally think you are. And I don't think you meant to, you're using Yahweh's name. I don't think you believe it. So this is over at the National Great Registry. And I put some example motions here. Very simple motions on traffic tickets. And yes, people can download them and use them. They're just generic motions. And here they are. All right, this is over at the National Great Registry. It's under the General Postmaster Council. I'll put the link in the box below. Here it is. This is how genius they are, folks. This is how genius your Grand Masters are. All right? I blank. That would be where your name goes. Hereinafter referred to as defendant. Hereby motions the court to dismiss case number blah, 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 blah. Defendant is being accused of a crime that does not legally exist. And yeah, I can prove that. Defendant is maintaining that there's no controversy before the court. Absolutely correct. Defendant is being accused of driving without a driver's license that does not legally exist. Here's your narrative. Right here. The defendant went to the Department of Motor Vehicles to obtain a driver's license. The Department of Motor Vehicles failed to produce a form that would grant the defendant's intangible property to the use of the public highways to the Department of Motor Vehicles. The aforementioned grant will produce a valid contract of terms and conditions under the license that the defendant would sign in order for the prosecution to prove intent to violate the statute that the defendant is being accused of knowingly, willfully, intentionally violating. See, he can't prove this. So that means all the money that's taken in by the traffic courts, stolen. That means what? Oh, all you Masons are thieves. And that's exactly right. Because I can prove it. Because you don't even understand your own legal profession. You don't even know how to run that. Because you missed every bit of this. You're incompetent to freaking practice law. How could you miss something so simple? So for with the aforementioned grant wherein the Department of Motor Vehicles would fill a position of grantee and the defendant would fulfill the position of grantor, thereby forming a trust agreement by and between the grantor and grantee wherein a license would legally exist. He has to transfer his or her has to transfer their intangible property rights to the Department of Motor Vehicles in order for the stupid license to exist. It doesn't even exist on paper. That means the cop that's writing a ticket against somebody for not having a driver's license does not have one himself and never did. For without the aforementioned trust agreement, a license cannot legally exist, and therefore there cannot exist a controversy before the court. Mr. Mason, anybody ever look up the term inciting or barratry?
We have.
Yeah, and you're calling these people sovereign citizens. You're calling them domestic terrorists. You're calling them all this other stuff, and that's you guys created that because of your incompetence. And you're blaming it on them when you're the joker that screwed up. So although the Department of Motor Vehicles may have an easement on the public highways for maintenance of the public highways, The easement would not allow the Department of Motor Vehicles to license privately owned intangible property without just compensation to the defendant. You cannot take private property without just compensation. It doesn't matter who you're dealing with. Foreign, slave, domestic, who the hell cares? You guys created domestic. Gee, I wonder why you did that. If the state does not have the right to take private property without just compensation, it is legally impossible for a department of the same or different state to claim a right that does not exist. You guys wrote the rules. We know the Masons created the freaking constitutions. You said that you can't take private property without just compensation. Now, guess what? You're a freaking liar. Every one of you are. And here it is. In the event the court ignores or fails to hear this motion or acknowledge the intangible property right of the defendant reserves the right to appeal to a human rights tribunal for the just cause of violations of Article 4, that's no slavery allowed, of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights committed by the Grand Lodge of the Masonic Order of this state. Bam. We've got a couple of these. Okay, we have one for vehicle registration. Same thing. You want to pull a usufruct, you pay the frickin' registration. Otherwise, don't hammer it onto somebody else. You lazy asses. The defendant is being accused. A lot of these are the same thing because it's the same exact thing, okay? Defendant is being accused of driving a non-registered motor vehicle wherein registration cannot legally exist. Because the very definition of a stolen vehicle is somebody that's riding in a car or that took a car that does not have the intangible property right to use the car or the intangible property right to the car. Now, okay, intangible property rights are as important as breath itself. We're talking about life. You cannot accuse somebody of murder without the existence of a soul. Because the soul has to have the intangible property right to a body, to possess that body, in order for somebody to go in, destroy the body, wherein the soul leaves. And you've heard prosecutors claim that they're speaking for the dead, you know, speaking on behalf of so-and-so, the victim, blah, 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 blah. Where the soul had the intangible property right to that body until it naturally died from natural causes. That's called murder, if you do that before it dies before natural causes. In other words, the soul can no longer possess. That's where Yahweh comes in and says, okay, it's time for you to go. He's the one that gave it, he granted it, and he's the beneficiary of it. That's how that works. That's how important intangible property is. That's intangible property is marked off and shown by meets and bounds, boundaries and borders. Somebody comes into your house, just walks right in your front door. You have the right to take their intangible property right of their soul to their body. Now that's called self-defense. You have the right to shoot them, maim them, kill them, seriously injure them, whatever you want to do. That's how important this is. Because people can't just walk into somebody's house, you know, hey, baby, how you doing? Kiss his wife, go into his refrigerator, go his underwear drawer, stuff like that. That gets you killed. And guys, Masons, you don't have the right to declare everybody incompetent when you can't figure out intangible property rights written in your own statutes. If you had done that, you would have the right to do what you're doing right now. But you have zero right to do what you're doing right now So it would be highly suggested you all cease and desist and start becoming extremely reasonable. Extremely reasonable. Stu, can you pull up Reign of the Heavens, that one thing in that first paragraph while I'm going through this? So we can pop right over there in a sec. The letter. Okay. So every case right now, if intangible property rights have not been transferred to the Department of Motor Vehicles, then there is no way to prove in any case that a defendant knowingly, willfully, or intentionally violated anything. There's no impossible way. It's legally impossible to do. Okay, intangible property right to a motor vehicle is the determination as whether a motor vehicle has been stolen or not. That's how important it is. That's how important this is. For without the aforementioned element to a registration agreement, a legal contract cannot legally exist, and therefore there cannot exist a controversy before the court. Barratry, Barratry, yeah. Inciting, yeah. So the cops are told by the master mason at the prosecutor's office to tell his lower masons to go out and incite so they can make money. That's how you guys have figured out how to do that now? This is how that sounded like a good idea when y'all thought about it and determined that's what it was going to be in your little rooms, your little secret things that you do? Y'all decided that? Y'all decided to make to put an illegal impossibility upon all insurance companies, where the insurance companies trespass on intangible property rights every day without an agreement put in place? Y'all thought that was a good idea, right? The easement would not allow the Department of Vehicles to register, because Department of Motor Vehicles supposedly has a easement on all the highways. At least everybody's accepted that. But the easement would not allow the Department of Motor Vehicles to require a registration of a motor vehicle without acknowledging the privately owned intangible property that the defendant currently possesses to the motor vehicle without just compensation to the defendant for intangible property right of the aforementioned subject matter. In other words, if I personally cannot go over next door to somebody and say, hey, you need to wash your car, and if you don't wash your car, I'm going to write you a ticket. You're going to owe me $100. I cannot regulate that neighbor's intangible property right to his own vehicle. If I don't have that right, nobody else has that right. Where in the hell did you guys get that right? Masons, you're claiming crap you don't even have. You're trespassing all over the place on everybody's intangible property rights, period. And you didn't have the right to enslave them, so therefore they are not slaves. They can't be slaves, but you can be the criminal for treating them like slaves.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more clear that their entire outlook has to be rethought. They've got to start from
scratch.
Yeah, they got a lot of soul searching to do. Because unless of course it's been intentional, in which case then it's nefarious, and that's a different conversation altogether.
And now we're not dealing with guys in nice pretty uniforms, we're dealing with thugs and scumbags. That's what we're dealing with. Scumbag criminals. So they better rethink a lot of this. And we're going to show you an attitude that these guys have, and it's very clear what kind of people they are. we put out an open letter from the government of the United States of America to all members of the Grand Lodge of the United States on October 15, 2017. Remember, the federal corporation they own is not a national government, never has been. Yet they put it in there that if you don't agree with the Constitution, or that it don't agree that it exists, you're an enemy. Yeah, nice little touch there, guys. Okay, nice touch that you put in there. Us against them, went to absolutes. Sounds pretty evil and nefarious to me. When the facts completely negate everything you guys have claimed for 240 years. This kind of attitude you get. In response to another version of this open letter, because we put out another one, okay, other than this one, a more abrupt and candid, the international notaries received this response. Here's this little prick. Remove this address from your list immediately, if not sooner. Like we're supposed to be intimidated by that. Okay? Your sins have reached heaven, guys. Remove this address from your list immediately, if not sooner. Ooh, we're supposed to be scared of Springfield, Illinois. Guess what? You're the first one on the list for nefarious acts against the people. Did anyone else want to come out and say something this stupid? Because all you've done is show how stupid you are. Every one of your statutes are null and void if they don't involve intangible property rights. Created by Yahweh, the one you call God. It is the very essence of life. And if you're that incompetent, step your ass down and get out of the way. So correction can be made in this country, can become the light of freedom again. Before you guys came in and crapped all over it in 1789. It was the light of freedom from 1781 until 1787. And then you guys came in and thought, oh, this is it'll be better. We'll do this better. We'll make it more perfect. If you can't accept the correction, step your ass down. That's all I got to say about that. Get out of the way. Because this show and many other shows have exposed you for who you are and what you're doing. But you need to read the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, educate yourselves on what law is. As far as I'm concerned, every one of your judges, every one of your lawyers are incompetent. Because you miss the most basic human right and essence of your own existence. You're on a suicide mission, folks, by following these guys. Anything else to say?
No, I think we've
pretty much covered it.
I think we've broken good ground on that subject matter.
Yeah, looks like we've established a cornerstone, haven't we?
Yeah, and just to summarize, I think that we've for any Masons that are hearing this, we've brought you to a point where you're going to need to make some decisions. If you continue to promulgate what you're pushing, the fraud and the violations of human rights, etc., there's going to be ramifications of that. Or, and this is not an enviable position, but or you're going to have to rethink, if you're righteous and you are looking for the betterment of the human family, you're going to have to rethink what you've done particularly over the last 100 years.
Or what you haven't done.
Or haven't done, yeah, either one. And for the folks, I would encourage you, and I'm sure Keith would support this, just start Googling Freemasonry, Grand Lodges, all the secret societies, and educate yourself on, who some of the folks are, what they're pursuing, in support of what we're presenting to you here, because it's real, it's occurring, it's slow. They hide stuff from you. That's why it's secret. You saw the oath where they pledge an oath not to divulge. So they're not going to be necessarily forthcoming in the information, but it exists. And as the grass grows, they implement these things slowly but surely. Get active, get educated.
I don't like sneaky people. Never have. I don't like you sneaking up on this and moving things and then making little suggestions here to try to push somebody. If your cause was that righteous, put it out there in the open.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things, right? Especially for folks that are sort of getting their mind blown at some of this information. The reality is if they were righteous, if it was an honorable pursuit, they wouldn't be hiding a lot of this stuff.
Why?
They'd allow the masses to embrace it.
Yeah. You know why? It's because they only go after the weak-minded. The ones that are stupid enough to follow this. The weak-minded, the weak-willed. That's evil, man. I don't care what you say. But, that you can't, if here with this government, we're looking for strong-minded, strong people. We're looking for people that make decisions. We're looking for leaders. We're looking for people that don't mind being corrected, and also questioning as much as they possibly can, so that we can keep our shit straight. You follow what I'm saying? For lack of better terms. So that we check ourselves every day, make sure that we're not doing things that we shouldn't be doing and stuff like that. No matter how much authority you have or how much power you have to constantly check yourself, because you're not perfect. It's a daily thing. These guys have lost that.
Yeah, I'd agree. It seems evident that they're far more interested in money than they are, righteous governing and
money, blood, selling weapons to South Korea, selling weapons to Japan by causing the nuclear scare from North Korea. North Korea getting a part of the pot when it comes to selling weapons to South Korea and Japan. Selling weapons to Iraq, selling weapons to Afghanistan, selling weapons to Saudi Arabia. The same people that have vowed to destroy us. Oh, sell weapons to them. That sounds like a great idea. Sell weapons to Syria, blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on and on. And you guys are on a suicide mission.
And that's just weapons. I mean, you got tainted vaccinations to
drugs,
permanently, you've got programs that are basically designed to create a slow rot of the populace, a slow rot, decades long disintegration. Meanwhile, you pump them full of meds that ultimately don't treat anything, so you're making money while you're killing them slowly.
Right.
Where do these decisions come from? This isn't governing.
It comes from those so-called grand masters of each state. Yeah, that's where it comes from.
It's not governing. It's not leadership. It's destructive.
And it's crazy. So, at any rate, thank you for listening to the T-roh Show. We hope that we have imparted information that you needed to learn, and thank you for the subscribes. If you like the content, so give it a like also, please. We're not making any money on it. We just like to see subscribers. That's all. It's not a big deal. But we are getting more hits than what's being shown there. So don't let that deceive you. Remember Fibonacci 1123 International Registered Agent. Very helpful if you're operating a private membership association or a trust or even a business. It gets you out of the states. The states can't go to international, so therefore they have to go through their federal in order to do it, and that's why that's so effective. So at any rate, thanks for listening to the T-Roh Show. We'll see you next week.